If you had asked me 6 months ago who I trusted most in the world, I would have said two names without hesitation. My wife, Jenna. And my best friend, Marcus. That answer feels embarrassing now, not because trust itself is stupid, but because betrayal always makes your former certainty look naive in hindsight. It turns every normal memory into evidence you should have noticed sooner. Every kindness becomes suspicious. Every joke sounds rehearsed. Every moment you once called loyalty starts to look like cover. Jenna and I had been married for 7 years. Marcus had been in my life since college. He was in our wedding. He helped me move into our first apartment. He was the guy who showed up at midnight with jumper cables, at funerals with coffee, at cookouts with beer he never expected to be paid back for. If I wasn't at work or home, there was a good chance I was with Marcus. That was what made the whole thing so easy to miss at first. When Jenna started going through what I thought was a rough patch, Marcus was around more than usual. At the time, it felt like support. Jenna had lost her mother the year before, and grief had changed her in slow, exhausting ways. She was still functioning, still going to work, still paying bills, still answering texts, but the version of her that laughed easily, planned trips, and remembered songs from the radio was harder to reach. Some nights she wanted to talk for hours. Other nights she sat on the couch in silence and stared past the TV like it wasn't there. I tried to be patient. I really did. But patience and understanding are not the same thing, and I think I failed at the second one more than I realized. Marcus, on the other hand, was suddenly very understanding. He checked in on her. Brought food by if I had to work late. Offered to help with errands. Texted me things like, "She seems better today," or "I got her out of the house for a bit." At first, I was grateful. That's the part that still humiliates me. I was grateful to the man who was eventually sleeping with my wife. The first red flag should have been how comfortable it all became. Marcus no longer felt like a guest in our house. He came by without asking. He knew when Jenna had therapy. He knew what takeout she liked when she was having a bad day. Once, I came home and found them in the kitchen laughing over some private joke. They both stopped when I walked in, not awkwardly, exactly, but enough for me to feel I had interrupted something already in progress. I remember standing there with my keys in my hand, telling myself not to be paranoid. Because what kind of husband gets jealous of his grieving wife laughing with his best friend? The kind who should have trusted his instincts, apparently. The second red flag was smaller, but somehow worse. Jenna changed her phone password. That sounds stupidly ordinary, I know. People are entitled to privacy. But after 7 years of no passcode, the sudden appearance of one felt less like independence and more like a locked door built overnight in the middle of a familiar house. When I asked about it, she shrugged and said, "Work stuff." Marcus used almost the exact same answer the next week when I borrowed his phone to order food and he took it back too quickly. That was when the thought first entered my mind, ugly and unwelcome. What if it's him? I rejected it immediately. Not because there was no evidence. Because the alternative was too disgusting to consider. People imagine betrayal as one shocking moment. It's usually not. Usually it arrives as a series of tiny humiliations your brain refuses to connect because the finished picture would hurt too much. By the time I started noticing the Thursdays, I was already halfway to the truth. Every Thursday for almost a month, Marcus had a reason to stop by. A toolbox he wanted to lend me. A package accidentally delivered to our place. A fantasy football issue that somehow required face-to-face discussion. One time he brought Jenna soup because you said she wasn't feeling great. I had not said that. That night I asked Jenna why Marcus had been there while I was still at work. She didn't look at me when she answered. He was just checking in. Just. That word does so much work in lying marriages. Then came the message. I wasn't snooping when I saw it. That part is true, even if it no longer matters. Jenna had left her phone charging on the kitchen counter while she showered, and the screen lit up with a preview. Delete our thread. He's getting suspicious. No name. Just the message. I think my body knew before my mind did. There was that strange split second where reality opens and everything goes silent, as if your nervous system is making room for the impact. I picked up the phone. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. The thread itself was gone by the time I unlocked it. Deleted. But she had missed one thing. The contact photo. It was Marcus. I wish I could say I confronted her immediately. Instead, I put the phone back exactly where it had been and sat in the living room in complete silence for almost 20 minutes, listening to the shower run upstairs and trying not to throw up. There is no clean emotional response to finding out your wife is cheating with your best friend. It isn't just jealousy. It isn't just rage. It's degradation. A kind of social and personal collapse all at once. Because the affair doesn't just touch your marriage, it rewrites your friendships, your memories, your house, your own judgment. Every time Marcus had clapped me on the shoulder. Every beer. Every joke. Every "you good, man." Every fake concern about Jenna. All of it rotted at once. Still, I wanted proof. Not because I needed it emotionally. Because betrayal makes you crave something solid enough to stand on. So I lied. The next Thursday, I told Jenna I had to stay late for inventory. Then I parked 2 streets over and walked back to the house. Marcus's truck was already there. I remember the sound of my own pulse in my ears as I stood outside my front door. No shouting. No music. Nothing dramatic. Just ordinary suburban quiet and my best friend's truck in my driveway like it belonged there. I unlocked the door as quietly as I could. They were in the kitchen. Not having sex. Not even touching, at first. That somehow made it worse. Jenna was leaning against the counter, crying softly. Marcus was standing close, one hand on her arm, saying something too low for me to hear. Then she looked up at him, and he kissed her like it was a thing they had done many times before. Comfortable. Immediate. No hesitation. That was the exact moment my marriage ended. I don't remember dropping my keys, but I must have, because both of them turned at the sound. No one said anything for maybe 3 full seconds. Then Marcus stepped back like distance could undo what I had seen. Jenna looked like all the blood had left her body. And I said the calmest thing I've ever said in my life. Get out of my house. I was talking to Marcus, but Jenna flinched too. Marcus started with my name in that soft, fake careful tone people use when they know they've lost the right to it. Don't, I said. He tried again. It's not, if you say it's not what it looks like, I'm going to put you through the wall. That shut him up. He left. Jenna didn't. For a while we just stood there in the wreckage of normal things, unopened mail, fruit bowl, dish towel hanging off the oven handle, while the most humiliating truth of my adult life sat in the middle of the kitchen with us. Finally I asked, how long? She cried harder. That was not an answer. How long? A few months. Months. Not one mistake. Not one impulsive night. Months of messaging, planning, deleting, lying, performing concern, and letting me thank him for supporting us. I laughed then, but it came out wrong. Harsh. Broken. My best friend. Jenna sat down at the table like her legs had given out. She told me it started emotionally first, which, in case anyone is wondering, is a terrible thing to hear from the person betraying you. Apparently Marcus had been easy to talk to. He understood her grief. He listened in ways I didn't. Then came texting. Then confessions. Then one night, after too much wine and too much self-pity, they crossed the line and kept crossing it after that. People love to dress up affairs in emotional language. Connection. Comfort. Feeling seen. I heard all of it and understood only this. They wanted something, so they took it and called the taking complicated. The part that damaged me most wasn't even the sex. It was the conspiracy. The two of them building a private world beside me while still eating at my table, smiling in my face, and using my trust as the floor under their feet. I asked if anyone else knew. She hesitated. That was almost enough to make me leave the room. Her sister knew something was off. No details, she said. But enough to tell Jenna to end it before I found out. Found out. Like I was the final inconvenience in a story centered on their feelings. I told Jenna to pack a bag. She asked if we could talk. I told her there was nothing on earth she could say that would make me want to hear Marcus's name in my house again. She left that night. Marcus called 12 times. I blocked him after the second voicemail. In the weeks after, the anger came in waves, but the shame stayed constant. That's the ugliest part of this kind of betrayal. Even when you did nothing wrong, you still feel selected for humiliation. Like two people stood close enough to know exactly where to cut and decided to do it anyway. I filed for divorce last month. As for Marcus, I heard through mutual friends that he's struggling and that things with Jenna aren't what they thought they'd be. That information did not heal me as much as people think it should. Affairs built on secrecy usually collapse in daylight. Everyone knows that. But the collapse doesn't reverse the damage. It just proves the stupidity was real from the beginning. The last thing Jenna said to me in person was, "I never meant to hurt you like this." I believe that, actually. And maybe that's what makes people dangerous. A lot of them don't mean the damage in advance. They just keep choosing themselves in smaller and smaller selfish ways until the damage is complete. If Marcus had been a stranger, maybe this would have been simpler. If Jenna had left me honestly, maybe it would have hurt less. But there's something uniquely brutal about being betrayed by the two people you would have defended without hesitation. I used to think trust was built from time. Now I think time only gives people more opportunities to prove who they are. And sometimes they do.